The clock struck 3 a.m., and the halls of Harvard University were eerily silent. Most students had long gone to bed, and even the night owls had called it quits for the day. But Dr. Jonathan Whitmore wasn't ready to leave just yet. As the director of mathematics research, he often found himself buried under piles of papers, deadlines, and endless administrative tasks. Tonight was no different. He sat in his office, organizing notes from a recent conference when he decided he needed a break. Stretching, his arms above his head, he grabbed his coffee mug and stepped out into the dimly lit library. It was one of those old-school libraries with towering shelves filled with dusty books that smelled like history. The soft hum of the air conditioner mixed with the faint buzzing of fluorescent lights overhead. Dr. Whitmore liked walking through these quiet spaces late at night. It gave him time to think, reflect, and sometimes even stumble upon something unexpected. As he wandered past rows of forgotten manuscripts and academic journals, a faint glow caught his eye. It came from somewhere near the back of the library, where the study cubicles were tucked away. Curious, he walked closer, his footsteps muffled by the thick carpet beneath him. When he reached the source of the light, he stopped dead in his tracks. There, sitting hunched over a desk, was a young girl. She couldn't have been more than 16. Her curly hair was tied up in a messy bun, and she wore an oversized hoodie that swallowed her small frame. A laptop sat open in front of her, casting a pale blue light across her face. Around her lay scraps of paper covered in scribbles, equations, symbols, numbers, all jotted down in what looked like frantic handwriting. Dr. Whitmore blinked, unsure if he was seeing things correctly. Was this kid really working on advanced math problems at 3 a.m? He leaned slightly forward to get a better look. Sure enough, the equations sprawled across her notebook were far beyond basic algebra or high school calculus. They were complex differential equations, the kind usually tackled by graduate students or seasoned researchers. His curiosity got the better of him. Clearing his throat softly, he said, "Excuse me." The girl jumped, startled. Papers fluttered to the floor as she turned around, wide-eyed and clutching her notebook tightly against her chest. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then finally she managed to whisper, Who are you? I could ask you the same question," Dr. Whitmore replied with a gentle smile, trying to put her at ease. "What's your name? And why? Are you here so late?" She hesitated, glancing nervously at the door behind him before answering. "My name is Amara," she said quietly. "I didn't mean to stay this long. I just lost track of time." Dr. Whitmore nodded slowly, taking in the scene before him. There was something about this girl, something special. He gestured toward the papers scattered around her. "Mind telling me what you're working on?" Amara hesitated again, then pushed one of the sheets toward him. On it was a complicated problem involving nonlinear dynamics, a topic that baffled many seasoned mathematicians. Dr. Whitmore felt his eyebrows rise involuntarily. This wasn't just some random homework assignment, it was serious stuff. "How did you learn all this?" he asked, genuinely intrigued now. Amara shrugged, looking down at her hands. "I taught myself. I read a lot of books and watched videos online. My family doesn't have much money, so I can't afford fancy classes or anything. But I love math. It makes sense to me, even when nothing else does." Her words hit Dr. Whitmore like a punch to the gut. Here was a girl with raw talent, passion, and determination, but limited resources. He glanced at the stack of textbooks beside her, their spines cracked from overuse. These weren't hers. They belonged to the library. She must have spent hours poring over them, teaching herself concepts that most people wouldn't dare attempt without formal training. But there was another issue nagging at the back of his mind. What was a teenager doing in a restricted area of the university library at 3 a.m? Technically, she shouldn't even be here. Rules were rules after all. Yet, as he stood there watching her fidget nervously, he realized that enforcing those rules might mean crushing a rare gem of potential. "Amara," he began carefully, "do you know how impressive this is? You're solving problems that take years of education for others to understand. Do you realize how rare that is?" She shook her head, her cheeks flushing red. I don't think I'm that smart. I just try hard. Well, trying hard has clearly paid off, Dr. Whitmore said with a chuckle. But we need to figure out how to support you properly. This isn't the way to do it, not sneaking into libraries in the middle of the night. For the first time since he'd approached her, Amara smiled. A shy, tentative smile that made her seem younger than she already was. I didn't know what else to do, she admitted. No one believes in me except my brother. He lets me borrow his ID card so I can come here sometimes. Droughtsman sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. This situation was far more complicated than he'd anticipated. On one hand, there were policies to uphold. On the other, he couldn't ignore the brilliance sitting right in front of him. All right, he said finally, making up his mind. Here's what we're going to do. First, you're going to pack up your things and go home. It's late, and you need rest. Tomorrow, we'll talk about how we can help you continue learning in a way that works for everyone. Deal? Amara stared at him, disbelief written all over her face. You're not going to call security? Nope, Dr. Whitmore replied firmly, because I believe in second chances, and in people like you who deserve every opportunity to shine. Relief washed over her features as she quickly gathered her belongings. Before leaving, she paused and looked back at him. Thank you, she whispered. For believing in me. Dr. Whitmore watched her disappear into the shadows, feeling a strange mix of excitement and responsibility. Little did he know this chance encounter would set off a chain reaction that would change both their lives forever. The next morning, Dr. Whitmore couldn't stop thinking about the girl he'd met in the library. Her name was Amara, and she had left an impression on him that refused to fade. He sat at his desk, staring at the pile of papers in front of him, but his mind kept drifting back to those late-night equations scribbled on scraps of paper. How could someone so young tackle such advanced problems without formal training? It didn't make sense, yet it was undeniable. Amara had a gift. He decided to dig deeper. After finishing his morning meetings, he made a few calls to colleagues in the mathematics department. Have any of you heard of a student named Amara? He asked casually. The responses were unanimous. No one knew her. That confirmed his suspicion. She wasn't officially affiliated with the university. But how had she managed to sneak into the library undetected? And why hadn't anyone noticed her before? Determined to learn more, Dr. Whitmore tracked down the security logs from the previous night. Sure enough, there was a record of someone entering the library using a borrowed ID card. It belonged to a graduate student, a young man who happened to be Amara's older brother. Dr. Whitmore smiled faintly. So that's how she did it. She relied on her sibling to give her access to a world she desperately wanted to be part of. But curiosity wasn't enough. Dr. Whitmore felt a growing sense of responsibility. If Amara truly had the potential he suspected, then letting her slip through the cracks would be a disservice, not just to her, but to the entire field of mathematics. People like her didn't come along every day. They needed guidance, support, and opportunities to thrive. Later that afternoon, Dr. Whitmore arranged a meeting with Amara. He sent her a message through her brother, asking her to meet him in a quiet corner of the library after school. When she arrived, she looked nervous, clutching her backpack tightly as if bracing for bad news. Relax, Dr. Whitmore said warmly, gesturing for her to sit. I'm not here to scold you. I want to talk about what happens next. Amara hesitated, then nodded. Okay, she said softly. Dr. Whitmore leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. First, let me say this. You have an incredible talent. What you're doing is extraordinary. Most people your age are still learning basic algebra, but you're solving problems that challenge even experienced mathematicians. That's not something to take lightly. Amara's cheeks flushed red again, and she looked down at her hands. I don't think I'm that special, she mumbled. I just try really hard. Well, trying hard is part of it, Dr. Whitmore admitted. But there's also natural ability, and you have both. The question is, what are we going to do about it? She looked up, startled. What do you mean? I mean, he continued, that sneaking into the library isn't sustainable. You need proper resources, mentors, and a structured environment where you can grow. I want to help you get that. Amara blinked, unsure whether to trust him. Why would you do that? She asked cautiously. You don't even know me. Dr. Whitmore smiled. Because I believe in giving people a chance, and because I've been where you are, hungry for knowledge, desperate to learn, but held back by circumstances beyond my control. I see a lot of myself in you, and I don't want you to struggle unnecessarily. For a moment, Amara didn't respond. Then, slowly, she nodded. If you really mean that, I'd like to try. Over the next few weeks, Dr. Whitmore became Amara's unofficial mentor. He started by introducing her to some of his colleagues, professors, who specialized in areas like number theory, topology, and applied mathematics. At first, they were skeptical. Could a high schooler really grasp concepts meant for PhD candidates? But when Amara presented her work during informal sessions, their doubts vanished. One professor in particular was blown away. This kid is solving problems I've been stuck on for months, he told Dr. Whitmore afterward. How does she do it? She sees patterns others miss, Dr. Whitmore replied simply. It's like her brain works differently. Word began to spread around campus about the mysterious teenager with a knack for math. Some faculty members were thrilled, eager to nurture her talent. Others, however, weren't convinced. Isn't this a bit unethical? One professor argued during a staff meeting. She's not a registered student. We shouldn't be bending rules for her. Dr. Whitmore listened patiently, then spoke up. Rules exist to serve people, not the other way around. If we turn our backs on someone like Amara, we're failing. As educators, this isn't about breaking rules, it's about creating opportunities for someone who deserves them. His words struck a chord with many in the room. Slowly but surely, support for Amara grew. Professors volunteered to tutor her during their free time, while graduate students offered to share notes and textbooks. Even the library staff turned a blind eye when she showed up after hours, knowing she was there to learn, not cause trouble. Despite the growing encouragement, Amara still faced challenges. There were moments when self-doubt crept in, whispering that she didn't belong in such prestigious company. Sometimes she felt like an outsider looking in, unsure if she could keep up with the intellectual giants surrounding her. You're doing great, Dr. Whitmore assured her whenever she expressed these fears. Don't compare yourself to others. Focus on your own journey. And so, Amara pressed on. She devoured every resource thrown her way, tackling increasingly difficult problems with determination and grit. Each breakthrough fueled her confidence, pushing her closer to a dream she hadn't dared to imagine before, to become a mathematician who could change the world. As weeks turned into months, Dr. Whitmore watched her transformation with pride. The shy, uncertain girl he'd met in the library was blossoming into a confident young woman, capable of holding her own in discussions with seasoned academics. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. Bigger challenges lay ahead, and Amara would need all the strength and resilience she could muster to overcome them. But one thing was certain. Whatever obstacles came her way, she wouldn't face them alone. As Amara settled into her new routine, life became a whirlwind of numbers, equations, and endless possibilities. With Dr. Whitmore's guidance and the support of a growing network of professors, she dove deeper into the world of mathematics than she ever thought possible. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. For every step forward, there were obstacles, some external, others internal, that tested her resolve in ways she hadn't anticipated. One of the biggest hurdles came from outside the university community. Word about Amara had spread beyond Harvard's ivy-covered walls, reaching local news outlets and online forums. At first, the attention seemed harmless, a glowing article here, a feature on a community blog there. People marveled at the story of a teenage girl solving problems that baffled experts. Local prodigy cracks advanced math problems, read one headline. Another called her the girl who sees patterns no one else can. But not everyone was cheering. Some comments under these articles dripped with skepticism. How do we know she's really doing this herself? One person wrote. Sounds like someone is helping her behind the scenes. Others dismissed her achievements outright, claiming she must have cheated or relied on shortcuts. The harshest critics even questioned whether her presence at Harvard was fair to other students who had worked hard to get there through traditional means. Amara scrolled through these comments late one night, her heart sinking with each mean-spirited remark. She knew deep down that she hadn't done anything wrong, but the negativity still stung. "Why do they hate me?" she asked Dr. Whitmore during their next meeting, her voice trembling. "I'm just trying to learn." Dr. Whitmore sighed, setting down the papers he'd been reviewing. He'd seen this kind of backlash before. It was an unfortunate side effect of breaking boundaries. "People don't always respond well to change," he explained gently. "When someone does something extraordinary, especially someone unexpected, it challenges their beliefs. Instead of celebrating your success, they look for reasons to doubt it." "But I didn't ask for any of this," Amara protested, tears welling up in her eyes. "I just want to do math." "I know," Dr. Whitmore said firmly, "and you're allowed to focus on what matters most. Your work. Don't let their words define you. You've earned everything you've achieved, and anyone who spends 5 minutes talking to you will see that." Though his words helped, the criticism weighed heavily on Amara. She started second-guessing herself, wondering if she truly deserved the opportunities she'd been given. Every time she solved a difficult problem, a tiny voice in the back of her mind whispered, "What if they're right? What if I'm not good enough?" Dr. Whitmore noticed the shift in her demeanor and decided to take action. He arranged for Amara to meet with a group of graduate students who had faced similar struggles early in their careers. Over coffee and pastries, they shared stories of overcoming self-doubt, dealing with imposter syndrome, and finding strength in their unique journeys. Hearing their experiences made Amara realize she wasn't alone. Everyone, no matter how talented, grappled with moments of insecurity. "You belong here," one of the grad students told her earnestly. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Your passion and hard work speak louder than any nasty comment ever could." Encouraged by their support, Amara began to push back against the doubts creeping into her mind. She reminded herself why she loved math in the first place, not for recognition or praise, but because it gave her a sense of purpose. Numbers didn't judge her. They welcomed her. Equations didn't care about her age, background, or circumstances. They simply waited to be solved. Meanwhile, Dr. Whitmore continued advocating for Amara within the university. He proposed creating a special program designed to nurture unconventional talents like hers. The idea gained traction among faculty members who had witnessed her abilities firsthand. Together, they drafted a proposal outlining how such a program could benefit not only Amara, but also other underrepresented students with untapped potential. However, implementing the plan wasn't easy. Some administrators pushed back, citing budget constraints and logistical challenges. "We can't make exceptions for one student," one official argued during a heated meeting. "It sets a dangerous precedent." Dr. Whitmore remained steadfast. "This isn't about making exceptions. It's about recognizing excellence wherever it exists. If we turn our backs on someone like Amara, we risk losing future innovators who might otherwise slip through the cracks." His persistence paid off. After weeks of debate, the university agreed to pilot the program, providing Amara with access to resources typically reserved for enrolled students. She received a library card, permission to attend lectures, and even a small stipend to cover transportation costs. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start, and for Amara, it meant everything. With her newfound legitimacy, Amara threw herself into her studies with renewed vigor. She tackled projects that pushed her skills to the limit, collaborating with researchers on cutting-edge problems in fields like cryptography and artificial intelligence. Her insights often led to breakthroughs, earning her respect among peers, twice her age. Still, the journey wasn't without its emotional toll. Back home, tensions simmered as Amara's family struggled to understand her sudden rise to prominence. Her parents, though proud of her accomplishments, worried about the pressure she was under. "You're just a kid," her mother said one evening over dinner. "You shouldn't have to carry the weight of everyone's expectations on your shoulders." I'm not doing this for them, Amara replied softly. I'm doing it for me. This is what makes me happy. Her brother, the one who had lent her his ID card to sneak into the library, offered unwavering support. Keep going, he told her whenever she felt overwhelmed. You've already proven you can handle whatever comes your way. Amara clung to those words, using them as fuel to keep moving forward. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she also knew she wasn't walking it alone. Between Dr. Whitmore's mentorship, her growing circle of academic allies, and her family's quiet encouragement, she found the strength to face each challenge head-on. By the end of the semester, Amara had transformed from a curious teenager sneaking into the library at 3 a.m. to a budding mathematician making waves in academic circles. Yet, despite her growing confidence, she remained humble, always quick to credit her mentors and supporters for believing in her when she doubted herself. As she stood in the library one evening, surrounded by books and notes, Amara allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. She thought about how far she'd come, from teaching herself advanced concepts in secret to standing shoulder to shoulder with some of the brightest minds in the field. It wasn't the destination that mattered most, though. It was the journey, filled with ups and downs, triumphs and setbacks, that had shaped her into the person she was becoming. Little did she know, the biggest test of her resilience, and her greatest opportunity to inspire others, was still waiting just around the corner. It was a crisp autumn morning when Dr. Whitmore approached Amara with an idea that would change everything. He had been invited to organize a small seminar for visiting mathematicians, a gathering of some of the brightest minds in the field, from universities and research institutions around the world. These events were usually reserved for seasoned academics, but Dr. Whitmore saw an opportunity to showcase Amara's talent on a global stage. Amara, he began, catching her after one of their regular study sessions. I want you to present your work at the seminar next week. Her eyes widened in shock. What? Me? In front of all those people? Yes, you, Dr. Whitmore said firmly, his tone leaving no room for argument. You've worked incredibly hard, and your findings are groundbreaking. It's time for the world to see what you're capable of. Amara shook her head vigorously. No way, I can't do that. What if I mess up? What if they laugh at me? Dr. Whitmore placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Listen to me. You won't mess up because you know this material better than most of the people who will be in that room. And as for laughing, they won't. They'll be too busy being amazed. But Amara wasn't convinced. The thought of standing in front of dozens of accomplished mathematicians made her stomach churn. She imagined stumbling over her words, forgetting key points, or worse, being dismissed as a fluke. You don't have to decide right now, Dr. Whitmore said gently. Just think about it. This could be your chance to prove, to yourself and to others, that you belong here. For days, Amara wrestled with the decision. On one hand, she knew Dr. Whitmore believed in her, and she trusted him more than almost anyone else. On the other hand, the fear of failure loomed large. What if she disappointed him? What if she let everyone down? Finally, she came to a realization. She couldn't keep hiding in the shadows, waiting for someone else to validate her worth. If she wanted to truly embrace her passion for math, she had to take risks, even if it meant stepping far outside her comfort zone. I'll do it, she told Dr. Whitmore the following day, her voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside. He smiled, clearly pleased. That's my girl. Now let's get you ready. Over the next few days, Amara prepared tirelessly. She practiced her presentation until she could recite it in her sleep, rehearsing in front of Dr. Whitmore and a handful of graduate students who offered feedback. They helped her refine her delivery, simplify complex explanations, and anticipate questions from the audience. Slowly but surely, her confidence began to grow. The morning of the seminar arrived, and Amara felt like she might throw up. She tugged nervously at the hem of her sweater as she followed Dr. Whitmore into the lecture hall. The room buzzed with conversation as attendees mingled, sipping coffee and flipping through notebooks. When Amara walked in, heads turned, and Whispers rippled through the crowd. She's so young. Is that really her presenting? How is this even possible? Amara tried to ignore the murmurs, focusing instead on the notes clutched tightly in her hands. Dr. Whitmore gave her an encouraging nod before taking his seat in the front row. Then it was her turn. She stepped up to the podium, her legs shaking slightly beneath her. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. For a moment she froze, overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. But then she took a deep breath, looked out at the sea of faces, and began to speak. "Hi, my name is Amara," she started, her voice trembling at first. "And today I'm going to share something I've been working on, a solution to a problem that has puzzled mathematicians for decades." As she dove into her explanation, her nerves began to fade. She talked about the patterns she'd discovered, the methods she'd used to test her theories, and the breakthroughs that had led to her final proof. Her passion for the subject shone through every word, captivating the audience. Even the skeptics found themselves leaning forward, intrigued by the clarity and elegance of her approach. When she finished, there was a brief pause, a moment of stunned silence before the room erupted into applause. People stood, clapping enthusiastically as Amara blinked back tears of disbelief. Had she really just done that? Afterward, mathematicians lined up to congratulate her, peppering her with questions and compliments. One professor, visibly impressed, said, "You've solved something we've been stuck on for years. How did you see what we missed?" Amara shrugged modestly. "I guess I just look at things differently." That night, as she lay in bed replaying the day's events in her mind, Amara realized something important. She had proven not only to others but also to herself that she belonged. The doubts that had haunted her for so long began to loosen their grip, replaced by a quiet sense of pride. But the impact of her presentation extended far beyond personal validation. Inspired by her story, Harvard launched a series of initiatives aimed at identifying and supporting underrepresented talents in STEM fields. Donations poured in from alumni and philanthropists eager to help expand access to education for marginalized youth. A scholarship fund was established in Amara's name, ensuring that future generations of students wouldn't have to sneak into libraries to pursue their dreams. For Amara, the recognition brought both opportunities and challenges. Media outlets clamored to interview her, and invitations to speak at conferences rolled in. While she appreciated the attention, she struggled to balance her newfound fame with her desire to stay grounded. Some peers resented her rapid rise, accusing her of receiving special treatment. Others dismissed her achievements, claiming she was riding a wave of sympathy rather than genuine merit. Through it all, Amara leaned on Dr. Whitmore and her family for support. "Don't let them distract you," her brother advised during one particularly tough week. "Focus on what matters, your love for math and the difference you're making." By the time she turned 18, Amara had published several papers, earned multiple awards, and secured a full scholarship to attend Harvard officially. Yet instead of resting on her laurels, she used her platform to advocate for educational equity, traveling across the country to inspire other marginalized youth to pursue their passions fearlessly. Looking back, Amara often reflected on how far she'd come since that fateful night in the library. She thought about the countless hours spent teaching herself advanced concepts, the late nights scribbling equations by dim lamplight, and the unwavering belief of a mentor who refused to let her slip through the cracks. And though she knew the journey ahead wouldn't always be easy, she faced it with courage, knowing she had already overcome obstacles far greater than any challenge yet to come. As Amara stepped into her new role as a public figure, life became a whirlwind of opportunities and challenges. The world seemed eager to celebrate her achievements, but fame came with its own set of complications. Suddenly, she wasn't just a teenage girl with a love for math, she was a symbol, a story people wanted to claim as their own. Journalists chased her for interviews, educators hailed her as proof that talent could rise above circumstance, and critics scrutinized her every move. For someone who had spent most of her life flying under the radar, it was overwhelming. One of the hardest parts was dealing with jealousy. Some classmates, both at her high school and later at Harvard, resented her success. "She didn't earn this," one whispered during a group study session. She's only here because they feel sorry for her. Another rolled their eyes when Amara joined a team project, muttering, "Great, now we'll have to carry her." Amara heard the comments, of course, it was impossible not to. But instead of letting them tear her down, she channeled her energy into proving them wrong. Every time someone doubted her abilities, she worked twice as hard to show what she was capable of. She knew she couldn't control how others felt about her, but she could control how she responded, and she chose to respond with resilience. Dr. Whitmore noticed the toll the negativity was taking on her. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, he invited her to his office for tea. "How are you holding up?" he asked gently, pouring steaming liquid into 2 mismatched mugs. Amara sighed, sinking into the chair across from him. "Honestly, I'm tired. Everyone seems to have an opinion about me, whether I belong here, whether I'm good enough, whether I'm doing this for the right reasons. Sometimes I wonder if I should have stayed in the shadows where no one could judge me." Dr. Whitmore nodded thoughtfully. "I understand why you'd feel that way. Being in the spotlight isn't easy, especially when you're young. But remember this, it's not your job to live up to other people's expectations. Your only responsibility is to stay true to yourself and your passion for math." "That's easier said than done," Amara admitted, stirring her tea absent-mindedly. "What if I lose sight of why I started all this? What if I start caring more about impressing people than learning?" "You won't," Dr. Whitmore said, confidently. "Because deep down you know what matters most. And even if you stumble along the way, you'll always find your way back to what drives you. Your love for solving problems, uncovering patterns, and pushing boundaries." His words stayed with Amara long after their conversation ended. They reminded her of the quiet nights spent hunched over textbooks, teaching herself concepts that once seemed impossible. Back then, there were no awards or accolades, just the pure joy of discovery. That joy still existed, she just had to remind herself to focus on it. Despite the challenges, Amara refused to let negativity define her journey. With Dr. Whitmore's guidance, she leaned on her faith, her family, and her unwavering determination to persevere. Her mother often reminded her, "You're not responsible for changing everyone's mind. Just keep being the best version of yourself and the rest will fall into place." Her brother, ever her biggest cheerleader, offered practical advice. "When people criticize you, ask yourself one question. Are they helping you grow, or are they holding you back? If it's the latter, ignore them. You've got bigger things to focus on." Slowly but surely, Amara found her footing. She learned to tune out the noise and focus on what truly mattered, her work. She collaborated with researchers on groundbreaking projects tackling real-world problems like climate modeling and disease prediction. Her insights often led to innovative solutions, earning her respect among peers and mentors alike. But perhaps the most transformative part of her journey was using her platform to inspire others. As word of her achievements spread, invitations poured in from schools, community centers, and youth organizations. People wanted to hear her story, not just the highlights, but the struggles, the doubts, and the moments of triumph. Amara embraced these opportunities, traveling across the country to speak to groups of students who looked like her, young, ambitious, and hungry for a chance to prove themselves. She shared her experiences openly, talking about the nights she spent sneaking into libraries, the rejections she faced, and the moments when self-doubt threatened to derail her dreams. "I'm not special because I'm smarter than anyone else," she told a packed auditorium during one such event. "I'm here because I refused to give up even when things got hard. If I can do it, so can you. Don't let anyone tell you that your dreams are too big or your circumstances are too small. Fight for what you want, and don't stop until you get it." Her words resonated deeply with audiences, many of whom saw themselves in her story. After each talk, students lined up to thank her, sharing their own aspirations and challenges. Some promised to apply for scholarships they'd previously dismissed as out of reach. Others vowed to pursue careers in fields where they felt underrepresented. Amara returned home from these trips exhausted, but fulfilled. Knowing she had inspired even one person to chase their dreams made all the sacrifices worthwhile. Still, she remained humble, aware that her journey was far from over. By the time she graduated high school, Amara had earned a full scholarship to attend Harvard officially. On her first day on campus as an enrolled student, she walked past the library where it had all begun, the place where she'd solved equations by the dim glow of her laptop screen. A wave of nostalgia washed over her as she remembered the nervous teenager she used to be, unsure if she belonged in such hallowed halls. Now standing there as a freshman ready to embark on the next chapter of her life, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. She owed so much to the people who had believed in her when she doubted herself, the professor who took a chance on her, the family who supported her unconditionally, and the strangers who cheered her on from afar. Yet, Amara knew this wasn't the end of her story. There were still mountains to climb, obstacles to overcome, and breakthroughs waiting to be discovered. She glanced at the towering library one last time before heading to her dorm, her heart swelling with determination. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready. After all, she had already proven that brilliance knows no boundaries, and neither does courage. Years passed, and Amara's journey transformed from a story of personal triumph into one of lasting impact. By the time she graduated from Harvard, she had become more than just a mathematician. She was a trailblazer, a role model, and a voice for those who felt unseen. Her name was no longer whispered in skepticism but spoken with admiration, her achievements celebrated not only within academic circles but across communities worldwide. On the day of her graduation, Amara stood on the stage of Harvard's Grand Auditorium, wearing a cap and gown that symbolized years of hard work, resilience, and sacrifice. As she accepted her diploma, the crowd erupted into applause, not just polite clapping but thunderous cheers that echoed through the hall. It wasn't just her professors or classmates applauding. It was the countless people whose lives she had touched along the way. Dr. Whitmore sat in the audience, his eyes glistening with pride as he watched her beam with joy. He remembered the first time he'd seen her in the library, scribbling equations late at night. Back then he hadn't known what to expect. But now, looking at the confident young woman standing before him, he knew he'd made the right decision, to believe in her. After the ceremony, Amara posed for photos with her family, her brother hoisting her up in a playful hug while her parents wiped away tears of happiness. "We're so proud of you," her mother said, pulling her into a tight embrace. "You've come such a long way." "I couldn't have done it without all of you," Amara replied, her voice thick with emotion. But as much as this moment meant to her, Amara knew it was only the beginning. Graduating summa cum laude wasn't the finish line. It was a stepping stone towards something greater. She had already begun working on groundbreaking research projects, collaborating with scientists and engineers to tackle some of the world's most pressing challenges. From developing algorithms to predict natural disasters to creating models that could optimize healthcare systems, her work had the potential to save lives and improve communities. Yet, even as she pursued these ambitious goals, Amara never forgot where she came from. She continued to advocate for underrepresented students, using her platform to push for systemic change in education. Universities around the world adopted programs inspired by Harvard's initiative, offering scholarships, mentorships, and resources to marginalized youth. Donors poured millions into funds designed to level the playing field, ensuring that talent like Amara's would never again go unnoticed. One of the proudest moments of her post-graduation life came when she returned to her hometown to speak at a local high school. The auditorium was packed with students eager to hear her story. As she stepped onto the stage, she recognized herself in their wide eyes and hopeful expressions, the same hunger for opportunity, the same determination to succeed against all odds. "When I was your age," she began, "I didn't think I belonged in places like Harvard. I thought my dreams were too big, my circumstances too small. But here's the thing, I was wrong. You belong wherever your passion takes you. If you can dream it, you can achieve it. All you need is belief, in yourself, in your abilities, and in the power of hard work." Her words sparked something in the room. Students approached her afterward, sharing their aspirations and asking for advice. One girl, barely 14, shyly handed her a crumpled piece of paper covered in math problems. "I want to be like you someday," she said softly. Amara smiled, recognizing the spark of brilliance in the girl's eyes. "You already are," she replied, tucking the paper into her bag. "Keep going, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise." As the years went by, Amara's influence grew. She published books detailing her journey, wrote articles challenging societal barriers, and gave TED Talks that inspired millions. Yet, despite her fame, she remained grounded, always prioritizing her love for mathematics and her commitment to helping others. Dr. Whitmore, meanwhile, retired shortly after Amara's graduation, content in the knowledge that he had played a part in shaping her extraordinary path. During his retirement party held in a cozy cafe near campus, Amara surprised him with a heartfelt speech. "You didn't just give me a chance that night in the library," she told him, her voice steady but filled with gratitude. "You reminded me that brilliance has no boundaries, and neither does kindness. Because of you, I learned to see myself as capable, as worthy, and because of you, I'm able to help others see themselves the same way." The room erupted into applause as Dr. Whitmore stood, visibly moved. "It wasn't me," he said, shaking his head. "It was always you. I just happened to be there to witness it." Their partnership became legend, a testament to the power of opportunity, perseverance, and believing in the impossible. Together, they had ignited a movement that transcended institutions, disciplines, and generations. In interviews, Amara often credited Dr. Whitmore for showing her that brilliance knows no boundaries. But she also acknowledged the countless others who had supported her along the way, her family, her mentors, her peers, and even the strangers who had cheered her on from afar. Looking back, Amara realized that her story wasn't just about her. It was about every young person with a dream bigger than their circumstances, every teacher willing to take a chance on an unlikely student, and every community coming together to create opportunities where none existed before. And so, the tale of the girl solving equations at 3 a.m. ended not with accolades or applause, but with a legacy that would inspire generations to come. Amara proved that brilliance isn't confined to prestigious institutions or privileged backgrounds. It's found in curiosity, determination, and the courage to keep going, even when the odds seem insurmountable. As for Dr. Whitmore, he spent his retirement reading, writing, and mentoring young students who reminded him of Amara. He often thought about the ripple effect of that fateful night in the library, marveling at how one small act of faith could spark a revolution. Their story became a beacon of hope, a reminder that greatness lies not in perfection but in persistence, not in privilege but in possibility. And though the details of their journey might fade over time, its essence would endure. A belief in the boundless potential of humanity, waiting to be unlocked by those brave enough to try.